Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, coming to you live from WCEG Talk Radio, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, here live on WCEG is the People's Choice. And I am your host, Joe Flint, all one word, like a tribe called Quest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special edition. I wish we had that noise in the back like they used to do back in the day when they do the special edition of the People's Choice. We have with us today some of the greatest minds in this political arena. We have an author, and we have the watchdog of all watchdogs, the mother of all mothers, that of Miss Damita Chatman and Mr. Norman A. Carter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome these two to the show today. You all are very familiar with them if you watch our platforms here on WCEG. They are our special guest hosts today, and they will join me in this conversation surrounding Georgia's primary election. Yes, that's what we're going to talk about today. It was said that someone mentioned that, oh, we know who already won the election. You're right, we know who won. But if all you're looking at is who won the primary, you have missed the boat. I said this story the other week when I aired, and I'll tell this story again. I'll never forget it. When I was campaigning in Michigan, it was in the midterm election. I think it was 2010, as a matter of fact. And we went knocking on doors, and one of the guys opened the door and said, bro, I'm good. I'm going to vote for Obama anyway. Sir, this is a midterm election. Obama is not running for office. You'd be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, how many people have no earthly idea of what's going on, and they think that just voting in the primary election was just enough to make the numbers by. But I'm here to tell you, my topic today, specifically from me. Now, I can't speak for Damita, nor can I speak for Norman, but what I'm going to talk about is that numbers don't lie. Numbers, ladies and gentlemen, numbers don't lie. But now, it may not be favorable to everybody, but I'm here to tell you that numbers don't lie. Listen, I have to, forgive me, but I don't like picking at people because I don't pick at people. But have you all, Norman, Damita, have you all seen the clip of Herschel Walker talking about, I don't even know what he was talking about?
Yeah.
I've watched it a few times in hopes that maybe I missed something in the clip, but I just don't. He says, Cain killed Abel, and we have to do something. I tell you, I laugh so hard. And well, understand, what are we going to do about Cain killing Abel? I'm still trying to figure that out.
You know, Joe, just to bring that, I just left the doctor's office, and my doctor came in, and the first thing he said, did you hear what Herschel Walker said? And I say, yeah. And he said the exact same thing what you said. And the first thing I said, and I'm going to say what I told him. I said, they done got that nigga roll to run, and he can't speak no word better than me. And I'm going to leave it alone.
Wow, goodness, I'm just so disappointed.
Disappointed.
In itself, even if, listen, I don't have anything against Herschel Walker. I really don't. I don't know the man to have anything against him. What I do not like is the fact that they've painted him as some type of war hero, not war, but they painted him as some type of hero, and then they got him on this interview and talking about absolutely nothing. And I just wonder. Part of me thinks that this is just them having fun with somebody.
They having fun.
There is no way in the world you all believe that this man is competent enough to serve in this role. But then the other part is he may not be competent enough, but the backers, the supporters,
absolutely,
are competent enough to use him to get what they need to be done.
Absolutely. And he's selling his soul out and everybody else's soul out.
Well, I've been calling him a handkerchief head for the longest time, and I'm not going to back up off of that. And that commercial and that interview typifies that. Now, just as Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, Herschel Walker doesn't live here. And if you look at I'm talking about in Georgia.
Yeah.
And if you looked at one of his commercials during the primary, and I stopped it and look at it, it talks about him being a businessman in Dallas. Not here, nothing about here in Georgia.
Wow.
And he's not being put there because of his qualifications.
Oh, not at all.
He's being put there as a tool to get rid of a black man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
From the Senate. And I'd have no problem with black or white or who I want the best person, period. But when you are so obviously doing what you're doing to divide the black vote and putting an ignorant, supposedly college graduate in there, you're telling me, number one, you're telling me that you have no respect for black people.
Amen.
And you're calling us all dummies.
And the fact that he's allowing himself to be played like this, because now he may not be the most intelligent, but he's not dumb. He's not stupid by no means to not know that this is a ploy for him. And so he's allowing himself, whatever he's being paid, whatever they're offering him, whatever they're doing for him, he's allowing himself to be paid for this. And it's just sad to me. So sad.
Let me ask you this, Joe, because Herschel don't live here in Georgia, but that's the problem that we have had in the primary election, where you got folks running in these elections that don't live where they say they live. Now, why is the Secretary of State not following up on that? Now, this is what a Republican told me. They don't have time right now, but they gonna come in on the back end and take care of it. Okay. And we, as Democrats and black folks, is falling for the okie doke. I'm through with that.
Here's the thing. The truth of the matter is, as long as you have a residential address 6 months prior to the election here in Georgia, you can run. All you have to have is a residential address. Whether he actually lives here or not is another issue. Now, like you said, it's going to be discovered. He's going to have to, at some point, have to prove or, be at the house or whatever resident he has here. But as long as you have some residential address 6 months prior to the election, you can run for office. You can run for office. And that's the unfortunate truth. And that's not, I don't know if it may be, I think it's in the Georgia Constitution, but of course, it is. It is in the Georgia Constitution, but that's also a party thing. And so the party can make the difference for that. As we talked about time and time again about the 50+1 rule, that's a party thing. That's not a constitutional thing. That's the party wanting their way. And it's just so sad. I'm saddened to see. But this is what I want to jump real quick, guys, to this. So, I believe when it comes to elections, I believe in looking at the numbers. I watch the numbers more than I watch anything else. I really, of course, I look at the candidate, but I look at the numbers of the candidate. And I want to tell you all, whether you know this or not. Now, I'm just going to give one example. So in the U.S. Senate race, on the Republican side of the House, 1,176,318 people turned out on the Republican primary. 1,176,318. On the Democratic primary, 728,000 people.
Yep.
In fact, if this was the deciding factor for the election right now, the Georgia Democrats have lost the election. Now, some people will argue, because I do know I brought this fact up, last week, that there were some crossover votes. There were some Democrats who voted on the Republican ticket, specifically in the gubernatorial race. But if they did it there, I'm sure they, if you chose in Georgia, of course, when you go to the poll, you have to choose a party to vote for. So if you chose a Republican ticket, then not only did you vote for, a Republican gubernatorial candidate, you had to vote for a Republican Senate candidate. Now, granted, Herschel Walker received 802,000 of those votes. So if going against Herschel Walker against Raphael Warnock, even just at the 802,000, Raphael Warnock had 699,000. At that alone, Herschel Walker will win. But the culmination of the votes of all the candidates on the Republican side of the House, there were 7 candidates, and total candidates, the total turnout on the Republican side was 1,176,318. And the two candidates on the Democratic side totaled 728,702 votes. That, if that is a preamble to what November is going to look like, then I'm here to tell you that Georgia, as far as the Democratic Party is concerned, is in trouble.
Yes.
It is in trouble simply because this is a tell sign to me that the Conservative Party of Georgia, the Republican Party of Georgia is upset that they have, that the state is being on a national level, on the federal level, is being held by 2 Democrats. They are upset that, there are, a lot of Democrats. I think there are 8 or 6 Democrats currently in the U.S. representatives and 8 Republicans. And it just shows going back to the redistricting of the lines where they put 2 incumbents together against each other. This shows that the Republicans are not playing. They have come to slay.
Yes.
They are out here to win. And, people are not, I'm going to get naysayers. Oh, Joe, you're just being, you're not being realistic. These are just.
Oh, no, you real, Joe.
These numbers are real. The numbers don't lie. If I haven't learned anything else in life, I know that 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 + 2 is 4. I've learned that. I may not know what X equals Y. I may not know, as the song says, I may not know much about history. I may not know biology, but I do know that I love you. I don't know everything, but I know enough to know that numbers don't lie. And I just want to go real quickly over to the gubernatorial race. And the numbers here, let me see if I can find it real quick. The numbers in the gubernatorial race were just as significant.
800.
Yeah.
884,778 votes. He got 73% of the votes. Numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
Joe, I think what we need to do, and what you think, Democrats is playing checkers. The Republicans, we're fighting against each other. The Republicans, they gonna fight and talk about each other, but when they come out, they gonna play chess, and they coming to take us down.
All the time. Yeah. You said it, you hit the nail on the head, Damita. I've said this for a long time, especially when you look on the national scale, especially when it's a presidential election, you'll see 18 Republicans running for president. You may see the same number of Democrats, but the Republicans narrow their people down real easily because they know without question that it's about the party and not about the person. The Democrats fight tooth and nails all the way to the end, and it'll divide the party. Yeah. The Republican Party is never really divided. Some people will say, oh, the Tea Party, but even they have joined the ranks. Even they have come back around to be true Republicans. So you're always going to have that other muscle or the other group of people who don't always completely agree. But in some way, shape, form, or fashion, they will always bring those people right back into the arena. Norman, what do you think about these numbers? I mean, again.
Well, I was into the numbers too, and I'm going to use my example as for lieutenant governor.
Right.
And this is going to speak to something that's probably going to offend a lot of people. But Kwanzaa Hall, 203,000 votes, and I guess he's going to be in a runoff against Charlie Bailey coming up. But this goes to what you're saying, is that in years past, Democrats and Republicans held caucuses before the primary elections to select their candidates.
Right.
And so you had a party backing particular candidates, and those who didn't get the backing of the party, they were running as sort of like outsiders. And we don't do that anymore. No. And when you look at the overall voting, now, generally speaking, all over the election, there was voter apathy, Republicans and Democrats. But there was less apathy on the Republican side. And what's damning about that is that nationwide, Democrats vastly outnumber Republicans. So there's something wrong.
It's true. So everybody's always talking. Especially here in Georgia, everybody's always talking. Oh, the metro Atlanta area can carry the state. Oh, the metro area can carry the state. Listen, there's a thing, and I've talked about this more often than ever, called polarity. That is 100% of the vote or 100% of the voter turnout counting for 100% of the vote. So when you go to small counties or small towns I'll just say somewhere like Meriwether, Georgia, or further down, Vienna, Georgia. Those people, the entire city, nobody turns away from voting. These are little rural areas, everybody goes and vote. And so those precincts will have 100% reporting, because all 100% of the people will vote in those little areas. And people try to count out South Georgia, but South Georgia is a huge area. South Georgia and Southwest Georgia, all that's a huge area. And those areas have been predominantly conservative for a very long time. And if you just take those numbers alone, if by these numbers alone, Georgia will turn back red. It'll turn back red. And you gave the lieutenant governor, but I'm just going to again give the overall view of the gubernatorial race. Brian Kemp himself had 886,000. You said that, Damita, but turnout for the Republican, 1.2 million. 1.2 million. And the total turnout for the Democrats for gubernatorial race for Stacey Abrams, 724,000.
Disgrace.
Yeah.
Disgrace.
That is a 500,000 person plus. That's 500,000 people who did not. I'm just going to say assume. I'm going to assume there's a $500,000 vote difference there. And if this is the calm before the storm, this storm is going to brew. it's going to blow over in November.
But let me ask you and Norm this. I've said it from day one. It was too many in these races running against each other. Exactly. I know everybody have a right to run, but what the Democrats should have done, went in the room, hashed everything out, and get behind one candidate. What you had in this election was the splitting of the votes, the back votes.
Every single time, Damita.
And so they know this. Yes. They know this. Yeah. So and this is what I just read the other day, Joe and Norm, talking about a blank slate. Let me tell y'all this. It is not gonna happen in the United States of America. Them white folks, excuse me, they might love us and I love them, but they sure in the hell don't want all black folks running this country. We might as well just.
If I'm honest, I don't want all black people running it either.
And let me tell you, looking at what's going on in my city, I don't want it either.
Atlanta has been run by black leadership for over 50 years now. And tell me what you see. Tell me what you see. Of course, there have been others in there, but tell me what you see.
Well, since I've been here in 2005, I ain't seen too much of none but big old potholes that can't get
Don't you say that out loud, Damita. Don't you say that out loud.
Well, I'm just telling you the truth.
Well, I think it was 9 people on the lieutenant governor race.
Yes.
Democratic side, 9.
Yes.
To your point, Norman, you talked about they used to get together for a caucus. And to your point, Damita, there is no reason why all 9 of those people shouldn't have been brought into a room and said, listen, we're not choosing you, but we need for you all to really just sit back and think to yourself, do you really stand a chance? I think that Eric Allen, Jason Hayes had the least of votes, 21,000. So whoever wrote Jason checks, if I were them, I would tell Jason, give me my money back. Because why in the world would you waste money? Nobody knows who you are.
He ran for a race last year because he was the same brother that got mad because I would not endorse him over the other candidate. It wasn't about him being black or being a doctor. It was about I knew that he was not going to win the election.
Let me tell you something about Kwanzaa Hall. The reason why he is at top because people recognize his name.
Recognize the name.
I have a problem with people just keep running for offices just because they're there. I have a problem with that. I don't have any issue with him, but I have a problem with people who just find open offices and run for that. What makes you qualified to do this job? Because it's an open office? You were a city council person, then you served for 35 days or 45 days as a U.S. representative, and now you think that you are fit to be lieutenant governor? I mean, really? I'm the only one that has a problem with this. I see an open seat. Oh my God, let me run for it. You know what? Don't worry. Next 4 years, I'm running for governor. Don't even worry about it.
You know, one thing that I pointed out when I interviewed him, and I'll point it out now, because I went to Ballotpedia, and Kwanzaa Hall was the only one that had a resume on there out of all the candidates. He was the only one. So my opinion is that every other candidate except for him was either ego tripping or building a resume.
But to your point,
you know, I ran for governor or lieutenant.
That's why they should have been in the room. They should have seen
exactly.
Kwanzaa has a resume. I give him that. I don't take that away from him at all.
Right.
And the other ones, what they have? Tyrone Brooks Jr. Really?
I always say it's always agendas and dressing up resumes. And I got in trouble for saying that a couple of years ago. I said it's dressing up resumes. Some of the folks that's in these running for these positions, they don't bit more care about the people in the man in the moon. It's dressing a resume and a check. As simple as that.
That's it.
But once the election over, you're going to see some of them still out there, but you'll never see none of them no more until the next election.
Until the next time.
And then what they'll do, Joe, they'll come and get in our Black churches and saying hallelujah and give a few dollars, and then they've been bought. I'm getting sick of that.
They'll show up to it.
You know, one thing that upsets me about these elections is that we continually talk about the candidates. And sadly, there were some very important questions on the ballot. My goodness. Should all Georgians have access to paid parental leave following the birth of or adoption of a child? Why isn't that important? Why wouldn't that get people out to vote?
Absolutely.
Should every 3 or 4-year-old Georgia be given the opportunity to attend a high quality preschool free of charge? Every poor person or every middle class person should have been out there voting.
Absolutely.
For that.
You know, the thing for me concerning those referendums, Norman, is that, you know, of course, I know that we have to do the research on our own, but I wish that they would do a better job at putting that information out. But it gets drowned out because of the candidates.
By the noise.
It gets drowned out because of the candidates. And you never hear the candidates talk about any of that stuff.
Because they don't even know.
They don't even know.
Right.
they go to the polls the first time, it's like, oh, I thought I was just voting for me. You know, they go to the ballot and find this stuff out for themselves.
Exactly.
You know, again, it takes a group of people like us to, you know, bring this stuff up. And the ones that I brought forward to the show were not all the ones that were on the ballot. I brought just a few of them to the show, but there were so many others that needed to be addressed. And those two were prime examples of ones that I'm quite sure that most people, because I know this to be true, most people went into there, probably didn't read the whole thing. And many of them probably just voted no, or they voted yes, you know, just because some of it sounded good. They voted yes on something because it sounded good. They didn't even know. They don't even know. It's so sad.
That's so true.
Yeah. And that's by design, though. That's by design.
But let me ask you this, Norm and Joe. What do you think about when you have elected officials that's getting paid by our tax dollars, going rogue and try to tear the community against their agenda? What do you feel about that?
Well, how do you mean?
How do you feel about elected officials? I'll give you a good example. I'm going to talk. I know everybody saw where Commissioner Khadijah and them had lawsuits, and they was parading down at the court fighting against Rob Pitts and Commissioner Rob Pitts and Marvin Arrington. And today, Commissioner Khadijah fired the person that she was running behind. I can't understand that.
So this person was working in her office?
Okay, she just fired.
Wow.
Robert Kelly.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that she worked in her office.
Robert Kelly worked as her chief of staff.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. I did know that. Yes, I did.
He the one that filed $1 million lawsuit.
Right. And he decided to run. Well, of course, you know, I can't have you not only running against me, but now you're now my enemy. You used to be my friend because you did what I wanted you to do. But now you decided to run against me? No, sir, you got to go. You got to go.
Yeah.
So the question, it says the specific party, Republican or Democrat, need to make sure individuals live where they claim they live before they are able to qualify. I agree.
Right.
I agree. But again, understand that if you have residency, that's all it doesn't say that you got to live in the house. It don't say that you got to get mail. Well, you probably need some mail there, but it says if they can go downtown and look up property tax and see that your name is on this property and it's a residential place, you can run for office prior to 6 months. And it goes on to say that some people had not looked at the referendums prior to the election, and when they did, they didn't know what to vote for. This is true.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's so sad because it's only so much that we can do. We can offer as much as possible and not put our opinions in it. We can give as much information as humanly possible, but it is still always up to the voter to educate him or herself on the issues, because it may not have the same effect on you as an individual that it does on me. I may not care anything about free quality education for children. It may not affect me. You know why? Because I don't have small children. So it may not affect me. But if you have small children, if you have grandchildren that are this age, this should be important to you. But even beyond that, just care about children. This should be important to you.
Right.
We don't, another comment here says community leaders should inform the constituents and others. We don't have community leaders anymore. We have elected politicians. I don't know of any community leaders. And this is not downing anybody from our show, but I mean in general, there are no community leaders out here anymore that are truly representing the people, who are truly doing their best to make sure that the community is informed. There aren't any.
Well, I will debate with you on that slightly, because WCEG tries its best.
Well, not us. we do our job. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Did you ever listen to Miss Chatman? I'm telling you.
Look, Joe, I'm gonna tell you, I don't want to be the politician, because see, I don't like to obey, and I don't want nobody to tell me to shut my mouth.
Right.
And I'm not a lap puppy. You know what? I never have been.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. What do you think? And tell me what your thoughts is. What do you think about elected officials that's been in office but haven't done anything? What do you think about that?
James Brown said it best: talking loud, saying nothing.
All day. I think it's unfortunate, because more often than never, Damita, they're in office because of their name. Most people don't know anything that they've done. Most people can't even pinpoint anything they've done. We don't know, the constituents, again, unless you are, avidly listening to WCEG or watching your page or my page or Norman's page, or just people who are politically intuitive. You won't know that these people aren't doing anything. You won't know that they aren't making a way, because if they are having town hall meetings, it's not publicly known. It's not widely known. I can't think of a time that I've seen a post on social media or a flyer anywhere for any current elected official, and I may be missing it. Again, I don't read the newspaper that much, but I don't see town hall or community meetings. I see, what I see a lot of, I see HOA meetings. I see, I see, barbecues for me because I'm running for office, but I don't see the individual coming into their community really having an open forum conversation. And then you'll hear them say, well, we have it once a month, but where?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I have to give a shout out to the city of South Fulton. They have them in sometimes. Yeah, they have them regular. So
I don't doubt that there are some. Please understand that I don't doubt that there are individuals out here doing this, but I don't see it enough on a regular basis. You would think that with the platforms that we share, every elected official would try to get us to share with their community that, hey, we have this on the ballot. We have this, coming up in the general session. The people need to know this. I mean, maybe it's just me, but how many times, maybe in South Fulton is a different area, but how many times has your state representative or state senator come to you and said, hey, these are the things that are coming up on the general, in the assembly?
Uh-oh.
You didn't with dad. The devil didn't want you to say that. But hey, knowing why he trying to get back, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about these different organizations putting money into these campaigns to push their agenda on us? And I'm gonna tell you, I'm not homophobic, okay? Let's put that out there. I'm not homophobic, and I got the gay in my family.
Don't you do it.
But I'm gonna tell you, I don't want their agenda pushed on me, because you know why? I have a black son, and Joe Flint got a black daughter. What you do in your bedroom or who you married, that's your business. But you don't have to push that on us. And folks are tap dancing around the subject.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Damita.
I know I'm tonight, but it is what it is.
I will say that, and I've talked about this on my program, and it's not like I'm going to repeat it, is that a lot of times these certain particular candidates, there's enough dirt in their closet that they shouldn't be in office. And other people in authority who have platforms, I don't want to be the one to say it. Why don't you say it? Why don't you do it? And they don't have the courage to stand up and speak out. Then when the government starts going wrong and starts going downhill, and everything a particular candidate prior to them has built up is being torn down, then you want to complain. When you could have addressed the problem in the beginning.
Say it again.
I apologize, guys. I swear, every time I start getting a little excited and it starts, I start watching me. But it's unfortunate that I don't see. And again, I can't speak for every community. But when I lived in Atlanta, and I know Valencia Stovall does it or did it in Clayton County, I know that she had meetings with her constituents, town halls. But you don't see it everywhere. You have a select few, but then let me just say this, in the inner city is where you see the bigger problem. You don't see it in small rural towns like I was talking about earlier. Those people want to know, because what matters to them is what's happening in their backyard. Unfortunately, a lot of times here in the big city, we think that, well, it's going to take care of itself. And even the elected official has made you to believe that they're taking care of it. And so you don't have to worry about it. I talk about this all the time, riding through the city of Atlanta, every single place. All the roads are just torn up, and they're spending all this money on beautification projects. Pave the GD road. I don't need flowers in the middle of it to tell me that this is beautification. Why does that matter? Flowers do not make me want to drive down this road any better. What I need to see is a paved road. What I need to see is a live, work, play environment. What I need to see is a safe community that I can allow my children to go outside and ride their bikes and not worry about something happening to them. But this is not what's on the agenda for the elected officials. Everybody's panhandling from the same thing. Oh, we need more healthcare. Oh, we need this. And granted, these things are important, but give me something more tangible from my backyard right now.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make my community better. I don't hear any of the elected officials talk about bringing job creation, other than on the higher level, on the state and national level. But when it comes to local individuals, I don't hear any of them talking about, we're going to bring more jobs to District 3, or we're going to bring more jobs to District 5. I don't hear that. They just assume that everybody is going to be able to fend for themselves. And that is unrealistic. It's so sad. So to your point, I do not like any of these elected officials who are just sitting in office and collecting a check. One of the things, and I'll digress so you all can join in. One of the referendums that really got me was the one that talked about, should elected officials be suspended or without pay? Should they not receive pay if they are found to have been convicted or indicted on felony charges. And I agree with it wholeheartedly. I think they should be.
I agree too.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that was brought up, which I do agree, is that if in fact they're found not guilty for any of it, then they should be back paid. I do agree with that. But if they are an elected official and they are indicted on felony charges, I don't think my tax dollars are paying for your legal fees. Answer no.
Yes.
I agree.
I'm not with it. But again, most people don't pay attention to that. And I guarantee most elected officials didn't vote against it or vote for it. I bet you they didn't vote for it.
Well, one thing I might be a little bit going a little bit off topic here.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm one of the people who for years and years have been saying we need to stop voting for party. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go against that this time, and I'm going to tell you why. The Republican Party may have some good candidates out there, but the Republican Party is selling and merchandising death.
Right.
And death, voter suppression, racism. This is what the hidden agenda, or not so hidden agenda. They're not even hiding it now of the Republican Party, and there's nobody in the Republican Party speaking against that, unless for my lady out there in the Midwest. So we need to be campaigning and on voting, pulling our resources together and voting all of these Republicans out of office. That includes Kemp. And and believe me, I don't want an all Democratic country, just like we don't want an all Republican country.
Right.
But for right now, especially people of color, and I'm talking about Blacks, Hispanics, and whatever, when you've got people like Herschel Walker who are doing all they can to do what they can to further oppress us, and that's what their candidacy is all about. Yeah. This is all about oppressing us and making it look like I said on Facebook the other day, that Bill Withers song "You," my favorite song by him, where he says you're pouring muddy water on me and trying to make me think it's rain. Yeah. That's what the Republican Party is doing right now. Right. Democrats are not too much better, but at least Democrats are not trying to do anything about suppressing African American history. They're not trying to engage in voter suppression. And not trying, and so many other things.
I have a colleague who is adamant about the fact that he says that Black people are Holocaust survivors and that we should all specifically vote the Democratic slate. And he says to your point, Norman, he says to your point that, the agenda, that's the thing that we have to look at overall. And I agree with this statement about the agenda. Each party has its own agenda. Now, every candidate does not always align specifically with the agenda. Most candidates, most of them, intend to go in and make some effective change. However, there's an overall agenda in every party. And we know that the Conservative Party's agenda is not always, and for years has not been conducive to our backyard. And that is a problem. So one of the things, and I have to touch on this, that is a huge issue to me. And first, let me back up. Our prayers and thoughts go out to all of the families that were affected by the school shooting in Texas.
Yes.
I cannot say how much we're devastated by this, and that we wish you all healing in only the way that our Creator above, our God, can do so. But when I looked at that, this is what came to mind. Of course, I was upset behind it. But the first thing that came to mind, and I don't know if this is my political mind always running, is that we are fighting in the nation's capital about whether or not a woman should be able to choose if she should have, if she can have a baby or not. But yet the thought process is, and this is what came up in my mind. Okay, well, let's have more babies so we can have somebody to go into a school building to shoot and kill all the babies. That's the first thing that came to mind when I thought about this. So this is more important to you, that somebody chooses their own destiny of having a child or not more important than making some effective gun laws that will keep people from being able to make these adjustments? So, and then former President Trump gets on the news and starts talking like he's the president. Did you all see his statement about this, saying that, you know, we need stuff that is already in place for the most part? We need to have the doors locked in the school. There needs to be metal detectors in schools. People should be checked in the office. He was saying these things that are already
in place
right.
in most schools. But for whatever reason, I understand that now why this happened, I don't know. I think it might have been hot, but I heard that one of the teachers had propped one of the doors open.
Got her on camera. Yes.
And I only assumed that I assumed that it was because it might have been hot, because I do not want to believe that this teacher was in on this. I just don't want to believe that. But I think the point I'm making is we're fighting over abortion rights, which should not at all be a political issue.
That's right.
Nothing about a woman's right to choose her choice of having a baby should not be a political factor. And of course, they're going to tie it into political factor because of healthcare, but this is not a political issue. What is a political issue is the fact that every gun-toting Republican is saying that the right to bear arms is, and I need for our listeners to understand, when this was written, the right to bear arms,
thank you,
did not have an army.
Yes.
We didn't have anything that remotely resembles the police department or the United States Army, Navy. We didn't have any of this. So of course, that was to protect you, your land, and your family. That made complete sense.
But now
is not the exact same that is taking place today. And so where there's an amendment needed is in that. Listen, I don't own a weapon. Don't try me though. I don't own a gun, but I also am not against anybody owning it. What I do have a problem with is the fact that we are not policing this agenda better. Our governor, Brian Kemp, has done the stupidest thing that you can think of.
Absolutely.
There is no need to have a license carry. Brian Kemp is under the belief that we live in the Wild West. Yes. He is under the belief that Georgia is a Wild West, is the final frontier, and that every Georgian, and the problem with this is that you're going to have higher crime rate and less solving of the crime because you can't pinpoint who has the weapon. And when you do, you're going to find out it belonged to somebody who didn't even know the gun was gone.
Really, he just really gave an excuse to kill the black folks to get killed. But we're falling into the trap because we're killing each other.
Him and Abbott co-signed what happened in Texas because Abbott was a speaker at the NRA convention the very next day. He was a speaker at the convention. I'm sorry, let me shut up.
And you know what, Joe, what I thought about that shooting in Texas, and I might be wrong. This is with my little brain thinking. The police took too long to go in there. Mm-hmm. But if it was Liz Sally or Sue, and a black man in there, they would have bust that whole door down, killing without hesitation.
He wouldn't have walked out of there.
He wouldn't have walked out of there. Again, I'm hearing that some of them went in there and got their family members out of the school. But
he was only in one room, and so that's not really true.
Okay, gotcha. But still, I see a lot of flaw that took place in that.
Oh yeah,
that shouldn't have took place.
Yep.
Just like the abortion thing, Joe. They want to be in the women's bedroom, but I ain't heard not one woman tell them not to go get Viagra. And don't y'all men get mad with me. I ain't heard not one. And then another thing, check this out. They changed their mind when them girls or they daughters and they need to start bringing little black babies home, little brown babies home. They gonna want some abortions.
I don't want you to think for 1 minute that it's not happening under their watch. Oh, it's happening more often than ever under their watch. They're just not making it publicly known, but it happens under their watch. Go listen. Go into an abortion clinic and look around and see who you see in there.
It's not a lot of black folks that have abortion. It's other folks.
Norman, I felt like you were going to say something. You were.
Well, if we're going to get to this abortion issue, I always remember this incident that I had as a police officer where a father attempted to rape his 13-year-old girl. Fortunately, his daughter, 13-year-old daughter, beat her because she resisted. Fortunately, she had a little brother who called 911 and we got interceded. But let's just say, because they never moved him out of the house, that this 13-year-old girl gets pregnant by her father. She, according to the laws now, she's stuck with that for the rest of her life. Stuck with that.
Not only has to deal with it, has to live with it.
Yes.
That's huge. That's huge. And you know that the family dynamic would be so messed up. The child, the daughter, the unborn child, the wife, or whomever, there would be so many issues in that. And so to your point, it kind of makes me question, what are you trying to push? What type of agenda are you trying to push? Because this has nothing to do with saving a life. Because if saving a life is the goal, then again, we need to look at this gun violence, look at the issues, because that's where the lives are being lost. We aren't losing many lives. We sometimes lose more women giving childbirth than we do of the child. There are bigger issues at hand than to be concerned about whether or not a woman wants to have a baby. Now, do I agree with abortion? No, I don't, but that's my personal preference. I do not believe that I could go into Damita's house or my daughter's house or anybody else's house and tell her what to do. Now, my daughters were younger, I probably would have. But when they become adults, that's a different story. I have no right to tell a woman what to do. I have no right.
That's right.
And I just don't understand how the government feels that it is their place to go into the conversation that's happening between her and our doctor, because there's supposed to be some, I know it with a lawyer, but I also thought that with the doctor and the patient, there's supposed to be some confidentiality as well. So now granted, I don't know what type of doctor an abortion doctor is considered. I don't know what they are, but even at that, I think there should be some type of confidentiality.
Well, you know what they did back in the old days when abortion wasn't legal, and those who didn't get a legal abortion, they would go. You couldn't get a legal abortion. If you couldn't get an illegal abortion, you went to your obstetrician. Oh, I got problems. And you got what they call the DNC.
DNC, yep.
That went on a lot. That went on a lot. But if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
They've been going on for a long time, and people will find a way. Find a way.
They're going to, because every state is not doing it, but these girls, these families are going to cross state lines, going everywhere to make it happen. They're going to make it happen. And the unfortunate thing is, because some of them are going to find a fly-by-night person to do it, you're going to lose 2 lives.
You're going to lose lives.
You could possibly lose the life of the baby and the life of the mother.
Remember, they used to do it with hangers.
I was just thinking that.
I'm starting to think that this is big. I almost feel some Hitlerish stuff in this. Like, I feel like they want one group of people, one race of people, because there's no reason why you should be this involved in somebody else's life. No reason.
Well, what my take on it is, the minorities is taking over. That's the problem. That the minorities is taking over. Let me ask you something though. Let's go back, because I'm tired of the bedroom. Now I want to get down to politics. I'm gonna tell you. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the state that we're in right now, we in a do or die? Do you think that all the people that's in office now, that's been there, should be removed out? Because if we remove all the people that's in office now, that's up for these elections, and put all these new folks in, I'm gonna say it, we hit. Because right now, the elections is very important. You see what I'm saying? Do you agree with me?
Well, here's what I agree with, Damita, is that there are definitely some individuals who need to be out of office. You know, I'm a firm believer in people who make the statement that voting doesn't count. We hire and fire elected officials every 4 years by giving them an opportunity to either voting for them to keep them higher or voting against them. I had to share with a cousin of mine the other day who didn't see it necessary to vote. I said, well, you're a small business owner. Your business tax, the ability for you to get a business license is all predicated upon somebody who serves in a very high office in the state. So understand that your vote does matter. But if you don't get the license that you want, if your taxes are skyrocketing because of your business, if you can't get what you need, then you're going to consider voting because you're going to want somebody there who's going to be considerate of small businesses and want to take care of you. So I do agree that there are some individuals that need to be gone, but I am not completely in agreement with everybody who's running to be in office either. Yeah. But this is, you know, it's a sad reality, but it's come down to, and I never thought that I would say this, but it's the lesser of two evils when it comes to, you know, some of the people that we have to choose from. There are some individuals who are really there to help, and more often than never, they're drowned out by the noise of parties. But then there are some who are just there because they want to create, as Norman said, a resume for themselves. And, you know, and I hope to God that there will be a turning point at some point in the, you know, in the next 10 years, hopefully before then, but in the next 10 years, we will see a turning point in individuals exercising their right and taking a closer look at who is there and to see that these people may or may not be for them. But I'll say this, I think we got 8 minutes and I'm gonna let you all go for it, but numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
Georgia, from what I've seen in the midterm elections, if the election was called today, the Democrats were plummeted in this election. There were some that came out victorious, but some of them don't have opponents. You know, but when it comes to the Republican side of the house, now we
see every time he finna say something, his mic go off. You notice that, Norm? That mic, that mic go off. And I agree with him, Norm. And you tell me what you think about this. Just like we had again on this election cycle, we had some Black female judges. That did not cross over because we did not vote for them. You got one judge that has never even practiced law that was appointed by Kim. Shouldn't have never won that seat because just think, one of our relatives might have to stand before him. Never practiced law. But we failed our judges.
All the time. Because nobody knows who they are. Nobody takes the time to research them. And unfortunately, so many of them are serving in office who, to your point, who have not done anything. And the truth, in some areas, you don't even have to have a legal degree to serve as a judge. In some areas.
Wow.
Some areas you don't have to. I don't know if it's here, but I know there are some states, some counties, some communities that have judges that serve in their area. And as long as you got elected, you're there.
Do you think it's time for our Black ministers and pastors to stand up for these elections?
You know, as a preacher, I have to be very mindful of this. What I do believe is that back in the day, the Black church was the information central. It was Google. It was the Encyclopedia Brown. It brought every piece of legislation, every piece of education that was needed for us in our community. Now, I don't know if that stopped because people, took all this money by becoming churches of nonprofit organizations of this, that, and the other. I don't know. But I do believe that our voices as ministers make a huge difference. However, so many preachers are preaching prosperity and feel-good gospel that they cannot take the time to preach anything else. And I see it so often, and it just bothers me that I see a whole lot of affirmation preaching, but no Bible teaching. Oh, I felt that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm
So
with you.
much of it. So much of it. And it's just sad. It's sad. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, I think, about 4 minutes left. Damita and Norman, what are your takeaways? What do you want people to know? What are your thoughts about everything that's going on? I'm going to shut up and let you all go.
I'll be quick. I just think it's important to make yourself an educated voter, to watch programs not just like WCEG and all our entire platform, but watch the news. Read a newspaper every once in a while. Find out who you're voting for and what their agenda is, and do a little research on their background. Yeah, it may take you an hour or two. So what? It takes you an hour or two, but that vote that you make or don't make will follow you for several years and maybe for the rest of your life if you don't make the right decision.
Absolutely. What I'm going to leave with, we need to get out and vote. We need to stop playing games. We need to come together as one. Don't be bamboozled about with these wolves, because you got a lot of wolves out there. They look like sheep, but they wolves. So I think we need to come together as one. We can win Georgia, but we got to come together on one accord and stop the shenanigans and everybody playing against each other. Again, I'm going to say it. Georgia is not ready for all black house. And so the black slate need to be put to bed, and it's the best candidates.
That part.
That's going to be for all the people, just not the black people, because there's a lot of black folks I don't want to represent me. And I'm through with that, Joe.
Listen, I'm going to answer this question. There was a question that says, should preachers run for office? So I've asked this question often, and my answer is, I don't think a serving pastor should serve in a political office, because there are going to be positions that you have to vote and stand on in a political arena that your Bible tells you that you cannot do. As much as I love politics and as much as I'm a preacher.
We know who stopped that. We
separate church and state. Separate church and state. Look, he got stopped again, and I agree with him. But Norm, I'm getting tired that we have.
I'm telling you, they are watching me.
Yes,
I know. We have preachers that selling us out for the vote too.
Yeah,
and the Bible say you can't serve two masters. I heard an old lady told.
There was a preacher that said that, but I ain't gonna call his name. There was a preacher that said it.
I heard an old lady back in the day that I went to church with. She used to say you can't straddle the fence. You got to serve either one.
Listen, I ain't gonna call no name, but there's a preacher who is serving currently in office who says you can't serve two gods.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a special edition of The People's Choice. We thank so much for having Norman Carter with us and Damita Chatman. You know them all so well from their platforms here on WCEG. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate you all so much for your input and for always keeping your eyes on what's going on and always keeping your ear to the ground to everything that's taking place. If it were not for you all and the platform that we have here on WCEG, we probably would boil over and bust if we could not get out the information that we have within ourselves. As always, thank you to our listeners, and thank you to our producer, Ms. Penny Rogers, and thank you all for joining us. Good night from The People's Choice. Again, I am your host, Joe Flint.
Good night.
Have a good evening, everyone.